All right. Hello, Race Brain Podcast. What's going on? My name is Rich Ryan. Bracken Crocker is here. Jack said he's going to come. Who knows? But we're going to hold it down right now. Bracken, what's up, dude?
I'm really enjoying this new software.
You like it?
They don't get to see it, but the countdown really gets you into race mode. It's nice.
We have. I was going to play. Hold on. Hey. Bracken, in case you didn't, I don't think you even know, but this was our intro music, and it's back now. This is it. This is what it is.
I like it.
If I gave you like a true or false, gave you like 3 or 4 audio clips, you think you could have picked that one out as ours?
I didn't know we had intro music.
I knew it. So yeah, we have a new software. There's a couple pieces of it that are going to be take a little bit of time on my end to make sure I understand all of it completely. Last week we had some poor audio quality because of it. There was some options that there was a lot of like background noise. Like breathing came
you're
through
heavy breathing.
It was yours, honestly.
No,
it was. I thought for sure it was gonna be mine. I've been working on that. I've been working on like my mechanics for breathing just for the podcast. I'm dedicated to this craft. And I thought I'd kind of clean that up, but it was BK over here huffing and puffing.
Get out of here!
I swear it was.
Lisa, she's like, hey, pulls her headphones out. This Race Brain episode, Rich's breathing is so loud.
It was yours. I'd be talking and be like just in the background snoring, and I don't think it was Jack. I think it was BK.
I'm not claiming it.
Well, we can't do it. So we're gonna clean that up. There's a couple options. I'm pretty sure I know how to, and I know how to get to run through something else as well. And also, we're on video on Spotify now. So if you are a Spotify listener, or if you want to check us out on video, we are always on YouTube, but now we're going to have an available podcast video for you. And also this really cool sound drops. I'm not going to play them all because we have stuff to get to today. But we're going
to mess around a little.
We're going to play around. We're going to hit Jack with him when he's not going to know what's coming. And he's going to, Jack's going to get something. So today, we have a couple things to cover. We're going to talk about Hyrox Sydney, first race in Australia. We're going to talk about Grit Games and Rally in the Valley. So we had a couple of different hybrid style events and also a hybrid fitness race, one of the first ones. So, BK, you want to start with Hyrox?
I want to start with, can we get a round of applause here?
Let's get this thing going. How's that?
Crescendo.
It built. People understood. It was like one person clapping. It was almost like a slow clap.
And they all caught on to the fact of why I was asking for a round of applause. And that was because you got your foot in the door and you finally got in the booth with the OCR report.
I was there. Jason Dupree hit me up. I was like, I'm available.
I'll get back to you. I'll see. Amy!
Clear the schedule. I'm going in there. But yeah, I had some painting to do that day, but I got in and got to watch the second event, the burp 400 test. With
so we can get to that later, but I wanted to start out giving you your flowers.
Thank you. I've broken through. Podcasting is just in the past now. Now I'm live events only. I'll put my rates out there. You can contact my agent, and we can continue to work forward.
If you had to pick an agent in this space who's not an agent, anyone in the OCR community, running community, hybrid community that is not an agent, who are you picking right now? You have to pull someone out of your phone to represent you.
I would probably pick Kent.
Yeah?
He's a pretty hard charger when he believes in something. Like, he has no problem like sticking it up for like going out, and he has experience with brands and he's been paid to do that. So I think Kent would be a good agent. How about you?
Interesting.
Jack's here. Hello.
I'm here. Sorry, work call, but it sounds like you're talking about sports agents.
If there was a sports agent, Bracken, pose your question to Jack.
If you had to have someone represent you today in a meeting, negotiating something for you, sport related, someone in our space, someone in your phone who is not an agent, you got one call. This person's your lifeline to represent you. Who are you choosing?
Kent's a good pick. I'd probably pick Yancey though.
I mean,
good negotiator, good salesperson. He's got business, expertise, a lot of history with that as well. Kent from the athlete, if I had to pick an athlete, I think that's a very good choice. And Yancey obviously is an athlete as well, but I think given what he's doing, building the DECA brand over time and just his previous career pre-OCR.
Yancey ran 57 seconds in the quarter, so he's a crazy athlete. Impossibly fast. Impossibly fast athlete.
Yeah. Might be the fastest athlete in our space in a 400.
I mean, he's definitely he'd be in the final heat. That's for sure.
It's him or Shauna Roberts.
Yeah.
Either or.
Come down to a kick finish. Who do you pick, Bracken?
If I were going boom or bust and I wanted to make an impression, I'd call Hunter McIntyre. But just the odds of the bust happening, the odds of them just walking away or giving the sponsorship to Hunter instead would just be too high.
Yeah, you're not getting that over
needing
him.
to represent another person might be a challenge.
I would say someone like maybe Matt Kempson.
Yeah. I could see that.
I feel like he could do a good job, but maybe I would just choose the person with the most sponsors. Like whoever we look at is just like, they always have a sponsor, and I'm not really sure why.
For sure.
That person.
That's a good one. Someone who's rising up the ranks like a Katie Knight. I'm sure she could probably learn something from Hunter. He's now getting in there. Has grown her following an incredible amount. So she's doing something. And she's making deals.
I wouldn't include her in the.
It's like, would you want a Scott Boris? I don't know why I call him. Would you want a Scott Boris style person? Or...
Okay. What was that, Jack?
Yeah. Oh, would you want a Scott Boris style person where he's just like, I'm only getting the best offer. You got to break the old record for the highest contract. That's all I'm doing. Or would you just want a reasonable person?
Yeah, you gotta have a dog.
Yeah, Magita's another one. Magita would be.
I don't know why I said it. Yeah, Magita.
He's kind of like the obvious choice here.
And not just because he's Jewish.
that's not part. It might be part of it, but it's not the only reason. He is a hard charge. He can make an argument.
Magita would make an excellent like sports talk show host. He could take either side. I know that we do that on some episodes of stuff, but like when David believes in something, he was like,
"Why was I not?" He was like, "Why was I not invited to be on Race Brain?" I was like, "Oh, I don't really know. Talk to BK."
Yeah. now it's my show.
I'm just kicking it. I'm just kicking everything to you. You're just when those complaints come in, you're not even gonna feel them. You're just gonna be like,
not even gonna see them.
Not even gonna look at them. All right, Jack. We're gonna start with Hyrox, Sydney. In Australia, do they spell Sydney with an I? I saw it spelled with an I somewhere.
They might just not have a strong scholastic system. Former penal colony and all.
So for everybody, we're starting off strong with our Australian audience who are here.
Bracken, you're gonna be to Australia what Rich is to you.
I love Australia. My sister lives in Australia right now. We might be heading down there.
Gotcha.
You should go. You should hit up. Nice. They have another race in I think 2 weeks. Brisbane potentially. I'll have to look it up.
Brisbane
or Melbourne. So.
Yeah. Host of the 2032 Olympics, I believe.
Hyrox Sydney, first ever Hyrox in Australia. We had some heavy hitters come out to it. The results on the men's side, James Kelly finished 59.18. I think his PR was like 58.30-ish, 20 high. I'm not exactly sure. Ricky Garard was 62.21, and Chris Woolley was 63.37. On the women's side, Olivia Leonard was 70.39, Caitlin Van Zyl was 75.51, and Kim Mercer was 118.09, 78.09. So, fellas, what are our takeaways? Let's start on the men's. What do we think?
I mean, let's pick up where we left off. We had a CrossFitter come in, and I put the over-under on you can't go faster than 64, 65 in your debut, unless you've been really prepping for this. And he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that Kelly and Woolley proved that the course was pretty legit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the sled push was very fast. But the times overall were, I think, the times you'd expect these gentlemen to run.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's more than a minute fast, the entire course. I'd say it's 1 minute away from like the most average course they'd probably run. Maybe 2. And even if you gave it 2 minutes, which might be too much, that's still a 64 for him, which is already on the fast end of what I thought he could possibly do. So a 62, if we think it's legit or not, I'm blown away. I'm really impressed. He didn't have the big crumble. He got tired, but he was still able to walking lunge.
Still did
wall balls pretty well on wall balls.
He is unbroken. like three
Pretty well.
324.
I mean, he didn't
something
go
like that.
Meg or
little
Miram
slower.
sub
Sub
3, but
three,
he
like
was
Miriam.
unbroken. Like, there's not a
Unbroken.
ton more you're going to do other than pace. So I was very, very impressed.
So I guess what do we
Watching,
let me
Go ahead.
just real quick, I guess, about these times, because we're going to talk about the times in general. I feel like we need to stop talking about the times, how they're going to compare to US times. And now, like, all the other courses in the world, those are the appropriate times to go off of.
Mhm.
And the US times might just be like a little slower, because we're always like, oh, this course is probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes fast. I just think that those are what the times are now. Like, that's just what we can expect all the time. 2.5 minutes on the sled
Yeah.
push. It's going to be a minute faster, 90 seconds faster, probably on both sleds total. And
We're
that's
at
just what we
altitude.
can expect.
That's basically
We're-
just it. Everyone
we're at
else is
altitude.
sea level. We're at
Exactly.
altitude.
Exactly. Jack, sorry I cut you off. What's up?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, if you watched the video, I know that the sleds were ridiculously fast, but just watching Ricky Garard in particular go on the sleds, he's against Chris Woolley, who's done this a lot. I know he's not one of the bigger athletes, but he can still move. James Kelly, he's got some strength on him. James Newbury, obviously solid CrossFit Games athlete as well. Just Ricky, that was just stupid how easy he made it look. You can see true power, and that's what CrossFit Games athletes have. Like, you have a lot of strong people in OCR for OCR comparison, but just watching him go, I was like, this is ridiculous, just seeing him do that. And everyone else is trying to go almost the whole 12.5 meters unbroken, and he's just coasting by him. It was very impressive. what
He
was doing.
truly hammered it. That was as
Yeah.
aggressive as I've seen anyone push that thing.
Mhm.
And I was interested when I was watching the women's race. The women's race was a little bit before. Caitlin Van Zyl, who is a high level CrossFitter, and in CrossFit, she's not necessarily like a strength athlete. She's more of a generalist, maybe more leaning toward endurance. And she still looked like bigger than the rest of the competition out there. And I was like, is Ricky going to be a monster? Like, how ridiculous is he going to look? Did you guys see that side by side with him and Woolley on the row?
Mm-hmm.
It was like an actual gorilla.
It's thick
It was he was, and Ricky's the same way. He's not like a strength based CrossFitter. He's more of a generalist, but much better on like the endurance side of things. And but he's still so big. He's still so jacked.
You guys have been around Chris and Decafit World Champs. You saw him, Rich. I don't know if you've seen him practice
we hung
before,
out in
but like
Vegas.
he's got,
Oh, that's
you
your boy?
yeah, oh yeah. But by like OCR standards, he's got like a barrel chest, just like a
Also
bigger
jacked.
guy, and he just looks like a middle schooler compared to CrossFit Games athletes, and we all would
I
realistically.
mean, that's the difference between our generalist and their generalist. Our generalist is like pushing 3 bills on squat. They're front squatting that for reps.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
our generalist is
They're
yeah,
small.
and they're splitting like what? 3 what would a generalist split or even snatch, yeah. 325?
Snatch they'd be under
snatching.
like
For
the heaviest
split.
be like 385, 285 for a snatch and split. If clean
That's a good 275 plus. You're probably
and
games
jerk,
athlete level.
probably like 340.
Yeah, and so it's just like
Yeah.
they're people who aren't strength athletes are stronger than our strength athletes. It's
Yes.
just there's such a difference. There's a huge divide there. And so the people that would come over that would be set up for this are not only the better endurance end of the pool for them, but they're so much stronger than us.
They're
And
already
that
big.
that strength comes in thickness.
Yeah.
That's where it goes. They just build wider and denser.
And like Hunter's the example, and we've probably used this before. He's not strong for CrossFit. He would be programmed out of basically every workout in the CrossFit Games, and he's like the strongest athlete that we have. You know, so
yeah, and he
there's a big
obliterates
gap.
us on it.
Exactly, and like from their standards,
Yeah.
he is. You know, he would have a hard time making a team that would go to the games. He probably wouldn't be able to.
But how about look at Corinna? She's made the games as a team athlete
Yeah, she-
before, and I think her strength numbers are probably even lower than Hunter's.
1-to-1.
Realistically, I know
But
that.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I would not say that. And
Okay.
even like Lauren Weeks too. Like, she is not a strong athlete for in CrossFit standards. I did something one time before where I did kind of like take the percentage of like the highest versus where Hunter was versus where Lauren was, and Lauren was exponentially higher against the field.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that if you took
Yeah.
any of the good, what we would call Hyrox generalists, not the runners,
Mhm.
if you took James Kelly, for example.
Right.
He would be the weakest out of all the generalists in a CrossFit, but there are generalists there that can run with him.
Generalist in
CrossFit.
In CrossFit.
That wouldn't be the weakest runner in the Hyrox field. So they translate over to us better than we translate to them.
At the
you put them
level.
on a Hyrox course,
no
and
doubt.
they're not going to be last coming into the skier.
Absolutely.
Where we would be the last or the first out on the lifting. So they will translate better, and it's impressive.
There are some Metcon workouts that I would say 4 to 5 of the 10 to 15 events that they have is like, oh, okay. Like, as long as it doesn't get into handstand walks and, just some gymnastics movements and a lighter barbell work, and a lot of calisthenics based stuff. It's like, okay, maybe we could hang on half the movements, but we would instantly, like almost everybody in this field or in the OCR space and even hybrid space would just immediately dead last. They wouldn't even finish half the events because of how heavy the
whatever
weights
the
are.
Whatever the 62-minute equivalent is at the CrossFit Games, none of us would do.
We don't have that.
No.
Not even close.
So good on them.
And if you look at it in terms of where that stacks up worldwide, like last year I was 22nd or something with a 59.11 in terms of the rankings. So like a 62 and change, wherever Ricky was. I mean, like maybe he's top 50, maybe not top 60, so in terms of like where he is and his first shot against the elites, he has some work to do, but the comparison that you're making is perfect, right? Like there is no Hyrox athlete who is going to be in the top 6,000, let alone the top 60 of CrossFitters.
Let me just add in Isaiah. Mm-hmm. I think he's got some credibility now on the CrossFit side, coming from OCR. He's kind of transformed.
But could he break 64 right now?
Hyrox,
right?
65.
Like how in a Hyrox?
I know. Yeah, he'd be slower than Ricky, in my opinion, at this point. Like Ricky's just as good as him, probably better on all the workout zones, and I don't think Isaiah's running is at a good place right now, despite that being a tool that he's had as a stronger athlete through the years. I just think he's geared so much more towards the strength side, and we saw him in a couple running events during semifinals, and he's lost the step.
Well, and that's the point. Kind of, we're arguing, could our one person be top?
I know
1,000 in there. Where
if we claim Isaiah,
whereas Ricky.
Reach.
Yeah, Ricky is not their best representative for Hyrox. Like
he might be. He might be.
But there are other candidates. We don't have another candidate. Our one, if we claim him because he used to be, couldn't do what their first emissary came over and did here.
It's like claiming Nell Rojas in the marathon. Be like, yeah, she's ours. Run a marathon.
We do.
Jeez,
that's how ours. Marathoner ever.
Come get some. But I don't know. Especially after this, because CrossFit Games level athletes have participated in Hyrox before, and usually they're well above 65. Mm-hmm. And Ricky's definitely an athlete who I guess his calling is he can kind of get into this pain cave and suffer. Like he seems to be the athlete that will just be able to continuously go and run through a wall. Like there's no barrier for him. And I guess he's a pretty decent runner. He's not running 17:20 to something like his thing said. Just looking at his runs from in this event, like it took him, like his total run time was 34:22, and where his rock zone was 3:38. So total amount of time was closer to 38 minutes total.
So he was running close to 7 flats.
And that's what you said, Jack. You said you were like, yeah, maybe he'll run 7 flats.
Yeah.
Which is still good.
It's not bad.
That's good. Compromise 7
It's totally good.
Again, if you walked into most gyms and picked out people who had his lifting stats and said run 1 7-minute mile, 99% of them couldn't.
No doubt.
And he's doing it compromised.
No, for sure. So, so I don't know if there'd be anybody better. Like maybe Yellow Hosta. I don't know if Jeff Adler. Like it's a long race, man. It's a long race. I think he might be the best.
Because Rich, what's 540 pace to you? That's probably
light
marathon, between marathon 50K. Half marathon for you.
50K on trail.
Okay, yeah. But what I was going to say is, so he can, in theory, if that's roughly what you're holding during Hyrox compromise, let's just translate that out. Assuming Ricky has the engine, it's like he could probably hold 7 flat for a marathon. He's probably a 3 flat marathoner. being able to snatch close to 300 pounds and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
That's a freak.
No.
Not too many better representatives that they could bring
Nick
into
Bear.
the hybrid domain and do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get Nick Bear out of Hyrox.
Let's get him out there.
I don't think he'd do
I
as
have
well.
no idea. I have no
I'd just love to
idea.
see it. And
Me
then
too.
Kent could show up and it'd be great.
Fucking wrestle. It would be amazing. I doubt it though. I don't see the benefit. The one thing that is a big I really respect what these CrossFitters, him and Caitlin Finziel and James Newbury, they have nothing to prove. Nothing. They only have this is only negative. This is the end result of this. Like maybe they win and they smash and then they can pound their chest and be like, CrossFitters are the best. But like realistically, us looking at it, we figured that wasn't going to happen. I think I picked James and Chris to beat him, and Chris was ahead of him until the wall balls, and Chris has had a hard time with these wall balls, man. Like he's still like he just sends it so hard that by the time he gets to the wall balls, he's on empty, and like isn't his worst wall ball, but it was still like 6+ minutes or something.
He had a rough one in the past, but he puts himself in
That's
contention.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like you could probably do it in 4.5, but he wouldn't be fighting for the win.
We've all backed off somewhere on row or lunges in order to get to wall balls intact. And he pegs it.
Oh, yeah.
He just goes. He's like, we'll see how
He's the answer to what would happen if I just sold out on the 3 stations prior.
You can start cramping on those wall balls, man. Things can go. Things can really start leaking time.
Rich, you were mentioning them having nothing to lose.
Nothing to gain.
How often
nothing to gain.
We look at
only to lose
or nothing to gain? Sorry, you're correct. Only to lose. So how often do they high-level athletes in CrossFit really have a competition? They have the games, they have the open semifinals, maybe the
there's
Dubai
like
or a Rogue Invitational.
There's maybe 2 during the year, other than outside of like the actual CrossFit.
If you wanted, you could do 7, 8 Decafits. You can do 4 or 5 Hyroxes, 40, 50 Spartans, just in the U.S. if you want to. Like we're spoiled with how often you can do this, and I know that higher level athletes, they tend to race less and focus on other things or focus specifically on peaking for certain events, but there aren't too many opportunities to compete. And he just came off of an injury. James Newbury, I don't believe he was at the CrossFit Games this year. Like you've got only so many chances to really prove yourself. It's there. You might be able to win a little bit of money while you're just doing a workout. I think that's probably the reason why some of them do it.
I bet they got paid an appearance fee. I bet like that was probably the real reason why he showed up. It's like, show up, see how it goes.
If you are him, do you decide I'm going to take Hunter's title and train for it? Or is it not worth it? Do you look at it and think I could do it?
I think if I'm him at that level of athlete, yes, I look at it. I'm like, if I wanted to take this, I could. But then I look at it, but I could also win the CrossFit Games. And he's young in that, like the opportunity cost is not even close to like being worth it for him. Where the winner of the CrossFit Games is 300 stacks. Hyrox is 20, and that's pretty solid. That's amazing.
So maybe he's the wrong example. Is there someone who is a lesser CrossFitter than him who knows I have better stats than him at this kind of thing, who would go, I can be the one who just like gets another win against Hunter for CrossFit? Do you think that this inspired someone who's like fringe games athlete who's just like, I can row and ski and run really well?
They probably exist, but when you break down the math, you said Rich, he ran like a 38 total for his rock zones plus his run, and his total time was 62 something. So that's 24 minutes of workout zone time. We've seen Hyrox athletes, including Hunter, be in the 24s or high 23s, like Jeffrey Bossin. He's done it before, and several have been in that 23, 24. Can Ricky shave off 7 minutes of his run? Like, can he get a minute faster on all those workout zones when he already had a pretty quick sled to begin with? I just think it's a formidable task at this point.
It wouldn't be instant, but I think he could definitely get better. I mean, I don't think he ran at all. And like running progress takes time, right? He'd probably have to lose a couple pounds.
He wrote in his response, he's like, I'd need to weigh 10 kilograms less. So that's, over 20 pounds for the Americans listening. And that's some serious weight loss.
Stature it's not that easy to lose muscle. Like you can put it on way faster than coming off. Like it doesn't just melt off like fat could.
Plus he wouldn't want to, no one who's ever earned that frame in those lifting metrics wants to get rid of it for their non-sport.
That'd be the thing. It'd be someone maybe at the tail end of their career who is looking at it like, is there a chance that everything that I've built up through CrossFit, and I have some endurance, I like running, and I'm 30, maybe I can push my chips into this and see, like, there's a guy named Norman Woodring who is based out of Florida, I believe. He's been a semifinals athlete for or whatever level that is. And he said, he's like, I'm coming after this record because he has a bit of an endurance background. So I think it'd be guys like that. It'd be guys like Isaiah if Isaiah was in like the opposite spot, right? Like Isaiah's trajectory is upward in CrossFit. If there was someone at his level who was kind of on their way down, Hyrox is like the farm league, dog. You know?
But Isaiah has the running already if he wants to get back to it. I feel like that's the harder thing to get. You shave some weight and just run a little bit more, and he's already strong enough. He's got the muscular endurance. I feel his transition back into the Hyrox world, if he truly wanted to get down to like 185, 190 instead of 215, 220, whatever he's at right now, he could do that a lot easier than Ricky dropping that same amount and also needing to learn how to run
He's the
better.
one, really. Like Isaiah might be the biggest outside threat if someone wanted to go all in.
But he never beat Hunter back in the day. Like
he only did one.
I think he might have had one. I was going to say Tampa during that restart race, but
Bahamas.
Can't forget.
Yeah, that was definitely a point-to-point race, right?
Anyway, it's interesting that his 62, I think, opens up the possibility that there could be people that say, if he can do that, I can do that.
For sure. But no one else has done it. There are people that are like him, right? Who are probably more close to like a Norman Woodring, who aren't the podium contenders, but people who have made the games, who've come out and just, we're not close. We're not even close to what this was. So
we need a Heppner with an endurance background. Someone who's excited, wants to try it, wants to do it a couple times, and isn't like all in on CrossFit anymore. Him with an endurance background is the kind of guy I would take.
What do you guys think about if Ricky Garard was to make a difference in his running? Like if you look at CrossFit Games, Jeffrey Adler won this year. He improved his running substantially. He looks like a fast CrossFit runner at this point.
He's wearing a heart rate monitor, doing the whole deal out there.
Yeah, but he's put in the work to become a better runner. And if you look in the past, like Rich Froning, didn't he like stop during the middle of a run during one of his earlier ones?
It was like in the middle of his
5K
range.
roughly.
It was just like, I'm walking.
Yeah. During the beginning, and Matt Frazier became a much better runner. It seems like that is the trajectory. You get better at running. Everyone else is really strong, but like you need a little bit of an improvement in your running, and then suddenly just CrossFit Games title just happens. We've seen it with the winners historically on the men's side, and Tia Claire Toomey, she's a very solid runner on the female side. Also, her reign came to an end this year, but we're just talking about the men because of Ricky. But do you think that if a guy like Ricky decided to focus a little bit more on running solely for CrossFit Games level performance, and then he decides to do another Hyrox later down the road, do you think that would result in a better performance, or do you think he's maybe capped out in the high 50s?
I don't think it would change his outcomes on CrossFit enough for him to push that into it. I don't think it's a realistic scenario. Would it help his performance in Hyrox? Like, yeah, of course. I think it would definitely make him better at that, but it's just unlikely because he's already one of the best runners for CrossFit. So spending time there is not, unless they completely change the sport, unless everything starts moving toward these longer endurance events, then potentially. But I don't think it would be worth his time and his efforts for something else.
Yeah, I'm saying he'd focus the time and the effort solely to become a better CrossFitter, and the side effect would be
it's just not
Hyrox.
It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, he'd be better off focusing on gymnastics or
literally
something. Like
the first 30 seconds per mile would be there, but he'd need a minute. And that's the thing. Like the difference between high 50s and mid 50s is the type of endurance athlete you are. To get to 56, 57, even I would call it 55, which I think you have to pop a 56 to be able to win a world title. That's what I think the sport is right now. You have to be able to run sub 6. all day long. And to be able to run sub 6 compromise, it just takes an actual endurance approach. Like if you look at the people who have done it, they're all people who at any given point in their career were right around sub 16 in a 5K and for sure sub 34 in a 10K. And those are just metrics you don't hit unless you're a runner on top of all your other training.
We haven't seen it yet, right? Like that's not precedented. It's not like necessarily you have to train like a runner to be that way, but so far what we've seen, that seems to be the case.
And we're just looking at this from the men's side because of Ricky. Like if we're looking at the women's side, you've got Meg, Lauren, Michaela. I think they're even harder to catch, honestly, coming from the CrossFit side.
Well, I mean,
like we're just entertaining Ricky as an option, but like who Emily Rolfe, she ended up winning the 5K.
I think she'd be great.
She beat
I think she
a
would
bunch
come
of
in
the
and
guys.
immediately make the Elite 15.
I do too.
Immediately.
But Elite 15.
I think the world title isn't up for
Ricky,
grabs to an outsider on the female side currently, because on the men's side, you realize that if you can get to the row, all bets are off. Because we don't have a back end monster in the men's field who's also the champion. We have people who are back end monsters, but they're not front end running. On the women's side, look at the back end of these women. That's not my best phrasing. But like who's going to
I'm clipping this for social.
Who's going to walking lunge and wall ball better than who is already winning and competing for the world title? Like they're going to have to beat them on the front end.
Who's going to who's going to go better than 256 on wall balls when women are already doing that? Like there's no ground to gain.
And the running, there's such a disparity between what they'll ever be able to do and Lauren and Meg and Michaela and their running that it would have to be front end work. And there's only so much time.
And you want to know what would happen? They'd get into a race. They wouldn't know that Lauren does her thing and should go out at 5 flat pace. And that's not good for a CrossFitter to hang on the rest of the race. They're just going to intuitively be like, oh yeah, I'll hang on. This is what they run at. And that's not good.
I can see you not buying this, Rich.
To be an elite CrossFitter on the men's side, you need to have a tremendous base of strength. And over the course of the years, you become bigger in stature. On the women's end, that base of strength isn't necessarily a prerequisite. So we see people in the CrossFit games who are like kind of engine based, like Emily Rolfe's a great example, who don't have this mountain of muscle that they would then need to strip away and lose. I think would be a much easier transition for women to come in from CrossFit. Like I bet if Christy Aramo comes in this year, right? She decides like I'm going to put all my chips in for Hyrox. She's a games level athlete, finished top 10, top 5, I think. She's run, I think, 3 hours, like 3:02.
She was a 3-flat marathoner roughly.
Like, why wouldn't she be good right away? She's not very big. She can come in and she's strong. Like, I think there's just more examples on the women's side just because of the way that men train as youth athletes, preparing for more physical sports than what women have done traditionally in the past, that they're not hindered with the amount of muscle that men are.
I hear what you're saying. And I agree with that. I think that the transition over would be smoother for a woman, but I think the top spots are gone. Whereas on the men's side, the transition would be tougher, but still anyone can win Hyrox Worlds. We never know what Hunter's going to be doing. And if it's not him, there are like 7 guys who could all win. And we don't have like that. If Hunter has a bad day, well, it's definitely this person winning. Because we usually say that and it's someone else. We're on the women's side, like if it's not Meg, it's Lauren. And if it's not Lauren, it's Michaela. And there aren't really any other, like one of those 3 is going to have a world record performance. And we don't have that yet on the men. So I think the barrier to entry is lower to women, but the podium might just be gone. Currently.
It was just Lauren 2 years ago. And last year we saw Michaela and Meg out of nowhere.
How many Megs exist in this world?
I don't think many, but there might. But all there needs to be is like one more in the entire world, and then there's a 4th person into the mix.
That's true.
Yeah. If you look at the women's podium for CrossFit, it's like you had Haley Adams last year, or maybe 2 years ago, and then Emma Lawson. She's 18 as well. Olivia, she's been crushing it, and she's 16. I know that she was
Olivia
like
Kerstetter.
16th or 17th this year. But bottom line, you have a lot of teen female athletes, and typically, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like you get stronger over time. You're not going to peak physically, strength wise, when you're 16 to 18 years old. That's like later in your 20s when you're going to do that. You can have a great aerobic engine, but you're probably going to do better from the engine side as a younger athlete versus the high end strength side. So the fact that you're seeing a lot of women on the CrossFit side be younger for their higher performances at the games, I think that does back up what you said earlier about, you might, Bracken, that you might actually see an easier transition for the women coming into an engine sport like Hyrox. Doesn't mean they're going to take down Lauren or Meg or Michaela, but I think that they probably would, not instantly, but they'd probably be very close to Elite 15 right away.
I think one of the main holdups for some of these athletes coming in who may have aged out of CrossFit or just kind of looking the writing at the wall, and they're not going to be able to sustain any type of lifestyle as a CrossFitter. It's just how much time they've already put into a sport and how much they've dedicated to it. It's like, do they really want to put all that effort now into something different? Or like, it's like what we get from these high-end runners. Like, why would they then come into OCR and be like, yeah, I'm going to give that same effort that I gave that got me to the Olympic trials, got me to the Olympics, and then do that same thing for this sport? It's like, I'm going to chill. I think that's another thing that might be a bit of a barrier for these athletes to get in and do really well.
Well, and now the sport's to the point where all their Hyrox work has been less specific than what Meg and Lauren are doing. Like year one, all the Hyrox work those women would have done would have had them more prepared for Hyrox than us OCR athletes. On the female side, I believe. I believe female Hyrox athletes could have come in and immediately made podiums. Now it's like they have a year delay behind Meg. 4 years behind Lauren? 3 years behind Lauren?
For sure.
And it's been specific training, and they're starting to figure out exactly what works for them. That whole process would have to begin. And like you said, are they willing to commit to going through that entire process when they can't jump in and have an immediate payday? Money and fame has a way of giving you some motivation to pursue the actual process. But if you come in and get beat and you have 6 minutes to drop and you didn't make any money for that, are you then gonna how many hours you train in a week right now? Are you 12 to 15?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna come put in 15 hours a week for no money when I might get it next year? That's a big ask.
Right. But for them, it's a cutting volume for them. True.
Yeah, but what about the paychecks? They're giving out 10 deep or paying everybody, and they're offering $40,000 at every single event now.
It's more. I think it's more of the exposure. Like, we see team athletes in CrossFit with 100,000 followers. There's so much fandom around CrossFit that even sponsor support will be higher, even if you are competing at a much lower level than, say, a podium threat at Hyrox. So I think there's a lot of reasons for CrossFit athletes to not get into this outside of just the paychecks that they can make in CrossFit, but the exposure, the eyeballs, the ability to sustain some sort of lifestyle from sponsor support. Maybe Hyrox will be there, or hybrid fitness racing will be there, and we're starting to see more companies come in, and it's going to grow. But right now, it's not even close to the same type of spectacle.
Do you think we're kind of used to, from the OCR side, like most people who are in Hyrox have done OCR at some point? I know that in the past year or two, it's been a little bit more. People haven't necessarily had a lot of OCR success beforehand, but we're kind of used to, I did OCR. Let me try trail running for a little bit. Let me try hybrid. We try everything. Are we just assuming CrossFitters have the same exact mindset where they're just willing to try? Because it seems like, for the most part, they might dabble in it once just to do something different, but they're still putting themselves in the CrossFit box and not really gonna change their ways.
I don't know. Rich is right about exposure. Think about how many Olympic marathoners are there in the field?
0.
Check. No, I'm saying at the Olympics, how many people run the marathon?
Less than 100.
How many of them don't have shoe deals?
0?
None, probably. It made big waves when our 4th place finisher on the men's side at the last Olympic trials came in without a shoe deal. It made waves. He didn't make the Olympics. He was probably the 600th, somewhere between 400 and 600 in the world in terms of marathon PR entering that race. And it was kind of shocking he didn't have a shoe deal.
Right.
Where in OCR, how many people have shoe deals?
2? 0
At
now?
this point, like legit shoe deals, yeah, very few. And the same thing with CrossFit. Like teams athletes are getting legit sponsorships and legit following.
Yeah.
But Hyrox, like how many people have legit sponsorships and following outside the top 5?
Yeah, right. It's like
it's just a numbers thing.
Exactly. It's like the early stages of OCR when there were some sponsors coming in, and it's like, let's see what this investment could get me. That's kind of what we're seeing now. Down the road, who knows? Like this thing is going to grow, and it's going to grow quite a bit, but it's not there yet. Not to the point where it's like worth it for someone who's already kind of on the fringes or already kind of sustaining a lifestyle to then pivot.
Yeah.
They would have to be very passionate about this or not be getting any exposure.
And what's a big deal in the OCR or hybrid space right now? Like 20 grand for a year?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That is not a big deal in the pro sport world. It's just not.
Right.
So like someone comes over like, we'll give you $5,000 to drink this drink this year. You're like, why? I'd rather pay my own money at that point to drink what I want. They're coming from a different level of exposure and sponsorship.
But if you're going to drink something, drink Power Lift. All the electrolytes, 10 grams of protein, holler at them.
I had a power lift this weekend. Last week. I still went out of Kirk's garage after a long run.
Nice. Was it cold?
I need something. Oh, yeah. Garage fridge.
Best flavor.
Garage fridge. Nice. I'd go back and forth, man.
What's the best flavor?
I was lemon lime. Now I'm thinking orange mango. I do like the berry, strawberry. I like them all.
Berry's definitely the best. Lemon lime's
pretty good. The orange mango is legit. New branding came out, got some new bottles. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is some kind of rivalry, like in the infancy of this? Like, is there kindling? Is there a little spark of rivalry happening between CrossFit and hybrid fitness racing?
I think there's a rivalry the way like middle schoolers have rivalry with high schoolers. Where they're like, we're going to show up to the courts this weekend and we're bringing our starting 5 and we're going to beat the high school kids. And the high school kids are like, you guys could like try to shoot your way onto the losing team if you want. Like, I'll gladly give you some buckets, but like, we are not competing against each other. When you yap too much, we get annoyed with you and we'll like knock you down a peg, but it's a one-sided rivalry.
CrossFitters are the high school kids here, right?
Yeah. I mean, like the hybrid athletes are monsters in their own right, but whatever is the bigger sport and the more powerful weight bearing sport is always going to be the king of the jungle. And they're going to look down and say, you've watered your sport down with excess cardio. And we don't have to do that. We can all go run if we want to, but you can't pick up our barbell. And so there is no rivalry there. However, if they keep sending people in, then like if they come up and compete, then it's a rivalry because ego is on the line. But right now, no, I don't think so. I think we're an annoying gnat to them because Hunter was an annoying gnat, a big gnat. And now like Rich is an annoying gnat to the UK.
Yeah.
Like we're just buzzing around people's ears.
Europe in general. Europe.
Oh, all of Europe.
UK. UK.
You're taking on a land war.
Yes, exactly. Because I'm sure in that I did not watch the live feed of Austria of the men. Went back and forth. I convinced myself I wanted to watch it, and then I changed my mind, and then I convinced myself again. And BK was just on the other side, just silent, waiting for me to really decide if this was going to happen. If we were going to do a watch. Come on,
there was never a chance.
There was a little bit of a chance at once for like a couple minutes, and then I was like, actually, this ain't gonna happen. Did you dial into the live stream?
No. It was Braden's birthday. We went to a sneak peek of Gran Turismo. Movie.
Oh, nice. That's up his alley.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna love that one.
Is he gonna be a guest driver at some point?
I don't know what that means.
I think it's a video game movie.
They have cars. I'm sure eventually they'll need someone to drive a car in a movie.
Oh, like a stunt driver.
Sounds like he's good enough.
I didn't know what a guest driver was.
It's probably mostly CGI these days.
Sorry.
I would imagine.
Pretty real. This was kind of cool. The guy who they made this story on his life was the stunt double for his own actor in the movie. That'd be cool, being the stunt double for the person playing you in your life story. That's pretty sweet.
You're just too old at this point to play yourself.
An actor.
It was like a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood situation.
Yep.
So I'm sure I heard kind of the grumblings through that there were some CrossFitters watching, and I'm sure every single CrossFitter wanted Ricky to bust that ass.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted, and every hybrid fitness racing fan wanted Ricky to get that ass busted. So on either side, I feel like that there is a little, like, I don't think that people that are into hybrid fitness racing quite respect or understand what they can do in CrossFit. And I think that CrossFitters think that what we do is just not challenging and difficult. It's not something that is interesting in any way. And that's kind of what it's seeing right now, where it should just be symbiotic. It's basically the same thing. It's just derivative. So having it be posed against each other, or the way that these kind of like fans like stick with their team, it's a little weird, a little silly.
I mean, end of the day, hybrid is, or specifically Hyrox is actually Deca as well. It's kind of just cardio light CrossFit.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it is. I mean, 100 wall balls at the end of a workout, that's tough, but you're never going to see a 60-minute WOD during CrossFit.
Yeah.
So I get why they're kind of looking at it that way potentially, but
I see it as running. Endurance stands over here. CrossFit stands over here, and we're in the middle holding both their hands. Like, we are the bridge between the two. Like, we hybrid in general, or us. Hybrid sports. And so, like, hitting us against CrossFit is foolish because it's ignoring that we can be the bridge to get way more fans into it. Like, runners will watch CrossFit. I firmly believe that, because every runner I know who's watched it thinks it's an awesome competition. Runners are competitive. And I think that CrossFit people, CrossFit athletes, CrossFit coaches, fans would enjoy watching certain running events. And they need each other. Like, runners have to get stronger. CrossFitters have to get better endurance. And we're the middle ground. I think we're like the tunnel where the fans can flow into us and then get into that. So I think it is symbiotic, like you said, Rich. But at the end of the day, there's an easy way to tell if there's a rivalry or not, which is, do both sides know the other people? Like, we know the CrossFitters' names. Do they know ours?
They know Hunter.
They know Hunter. Do they know the person that they have a rivalry with? Do they know who the top 3 in the world are?
Probably not top 3.
Bare minimum. Can they name 3 of the top 100 Hyrox athletes in the world?
Both genders involved?
You can use both genders. Can you name more than 3 from if you're at the games in Madison, just pulling athletes, name 3 Hyrox athletes? They get Hunter, Hepner, and Smith. Chandler Smith.
Yeah,
so anyways, that proves there's no rivalry.
They might know Lauren. They might know Lauren at this point. Like, she's out there a little bit. Yeah, you're right.
But it could be. If this continues.
But Hyrox Hyrox is covered on like morning chalk up and some of their recaps. They are paying attention. So I think there is a little bit more exposure to names. I don't think that they could pick you out of a lineup, but they've probably been like, yeah, I've heard of Lauren. I've heard of maybe Ryan Kent or Nikita after winning. Yeah.
But probably not.
If they showed a picture of Ryan Kent with no context, how many CrossFitters would be like, that's Ryan Kent from Hyrox?
Probably 0.
Yeah,
most likely 0.
So it comes down to, did Garard like turn the spigot off? Were they like, he came in, did all right, doesn't really do anything? Or did he just like blast through, open up the spigot, and now it's just going to come flowing through?
I think, if anything, probably the latter end, because most of the people that are going to be the ones that are the loudest from this conversation are the ones are not games athletes, right? They're diehards at the gym. They're people who watch a sport, but they're not that good at CrossFit, where competition is something that is going to sustain a lifestyle for them. So they probably saw how well Ricky did. And even in Ricky's post, he's like, I just proved that CrossFit style training can get you prepared for anything. Wrong. Because now if all these CrossFitters just come right over it, they're gonna get worked in a Hyrox, but it might give them something to strive for a little bit more. They'll understand it a little bit about how it's not just a long CrossFit event, even though it is, but it is mostly much more of a long distance endurance event.
He proved that if you're one of the best athletes in the world at something, that you can do well at the next adjacent sport to it. That's what he proved.
Yep, he might have some advancement physically in there as well. That helps him prepare.
Take a random box and have them all come into a Hyrox, and they're all going to die. Like blow up, die, not die. So no, he just proved that he's a freak of nature, and he's trained really, really, really hard for a decade. That's what he proved. It had nothing to do with his system of training.
No, that he likes to ride mountain bikes, so he has some base of endurance there. He's probably been doing that for a long time, and he's definitely more of the anomaly. But I think that it opens it up. People see like, oh, Ricky did well. Look, let me see what I can do. Some of the CrossFitters over at Omnia paid attention to saw what Ricky did. Did you guys see a clip of James and Chris talking on the rower?
Mm-mm.
Did you see I couldn't tell who was saying what, but they referred to Ricky as CrossFit because he was not with them at the rower. They're like, oh, where is he? Where's CrossFit at? And like kind of talking shit. And then Ricky caught him on the walls. But yeah, and then I got that sent to me. People were like having Ricky's back on this case, which is so funny to me. It's like this guy who came in and got popped for using drugs, and now he's into our sport, and they're like, that's our guy still. It's like, yeah, I guess it is.
That was going to be one of my questions. Like, what if Ricky did have success in here, given his history? Like, how would it seems like CrossFitters just kind of forgive and forget. This fans, at least. I know the athletes themselves don't necessarily,
they do.
But like if he starts dominating,
because they're all aware that he's just the one who got caught. They're not mad that he's cheating because they're all, not all, the vast majority are using things.
Maybe
there were a lot of pre-games tests. Some guy was it Jason Smith from South Africa ahead of the games. He got caught, and like a bunch of teams, athletes, and stuff. I don't think that they're testing 40 out of 40 athos though.
You also
really
don't
at the games.
I bet they test everybody. They definitely test everybody.
I'd hope so. But bottom line, like, what if he started doing well? Like
Bracken's going to get his freaking thesis out. He's going to start talking to us about the whole
go ahead,
deal.
Bracken. What do you think?
I mean, it's the classic defense. If the best person is doping and other people can beat them or are right there next to them, either they weren't the best person or everyone's doing it. And the sport defies recovery logic. It's not an indictment of it. Our sport is full to the brim of performance-enhancing substances. That's just what high-level sport is, unfortunately, in this day and age. But so no, I don't think it causes anything, because I cannot, with any amount of confidence, say that you could have tested the Elite 15 and got more than half the people clean.
I agree. Like, there could be so many people using right now that, like, come on in, dude. We're not even.
What are the backgrounds
about it?
Let's name the backgrounds of the Elite 15 of the past few years. We've had some triathletes,
endurance, and triathlete, endurance, running,
male models,
rugby, football, European football,
swimming.
Name the clean sport there. Name the sport not known to have a lot of substance use.
Name any sport that's a clean sport at the end of the day.
Basketball?
No, basketball is great. So anyways, I'm not even downgrading any of these people, because if all your peers are doing it, it's back to kind of an even playing field. The barrier to entry is higher and it's unfair, but saying like he's the dirty CrossFitter, it's like, it's not, because I love when people get popped, but it's almost unfortunate he has to bear the cross for all of the sport. Because then they can stand there and be like, how dare he disrespect? Like, no, what you're really saying is, how dare he mistime his cycle and get caught? Because I didn't.
Right. True. So, having him in Hyrox, like, I mean, if anything, maybe this gets some conversation going about Hyrox actually testing some athletes. I doubt it. But maybe.
No, they're going to compare sources. Like, where are you getting your stuff, man?
Could be. But yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, Hyrox HQ, if they're going to actually make that kind of change.
Oh.
What's up?
Yeah, Rich, as an athlete who's probably going to race to some of these majors, I hope you do at some point, would you rather see the prize money go down 10% total as a whole, like the pot? Instead of offering 40,000, they offer like 36,000, but they use some of that to just drug test some of the people. Would you be okay with that? I'm just trying to think of ways, because I think we all have our suspicions that there are people in Hyrox space, and it could be DECA, it could be CrossFit, it could be OCR, whatever. Athletes are doping at the end of the day, and I think if they're throwing out this big amount of prize money, just taking a little bit of it, and just, you don't have to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to intentionally do it, because some people might be like, oh, I'm having a bad day, I'll just fade to 7th, I'm good. But I think that using some of that money and redistributing it for testing,
I
would be
agree.
good.
I would be completely fine with that. As an athlete who's not winning the 20 grand for the win, then I have absolutely no problem. And if that brings the pool of athletes down a little bit and makes the competition more even and fair, if it's a clean sport, like, yeah, absolutely, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I feel like most people would say that, and like, I don't know, I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. Because if you're racing for the first spot, and say they offer 10,000 versus 9,000 because they have to redistribute it, it's still like, it's not a huge amount difference. If they take 10% off everyone's winnings and they just collectively do a pot of it, you're still making roughly the same amount of money. And I get it, it adds up over time. It does stink when you don't make the full amount before, but that would be a simple way to just test and add it to the sport.
They're still just trying to attract athletes. It's like, let's
It's
get
true.
them in here see what this prize money can do. Let them go crazy.
Yeah. Bracken, do you know the first time when they started testing athletes for anything? Like, I know that you did your thesis and stuff. Like, what era was that? Was that like the 50s, the 60s?
Goodness, I don't know.
Good question.
Like,
This is a race
I
brain
don't
teaser.
have an answer.
Never mind.
I do have one.
All right, we'll
this
get
week,
there.
though.
That'll be research for later. So let's move on. We'll head to the grit games. Overall, shout out to James Kelly representing for the Hyrox community. Chris Woolley was out there. I mean, I know this wasn't his main focus going into the season, but with a very, very strong 63-37. And dude, only respect to Ricky Garard on this. That really, like, nothing to gain,
And
literally nothing. Yeah, and James Newberry, same deal. Caitlin Vinzil, same thing. Shout out to Olivia Leonard for taking care of business out there. She was an early leader and just continued to grind and put 5 minutes on Caitlin by the end. And Kim Mercer, I believe, is a U.S. athlete, so she made the trip over there. And then, we'll just say all times that are not in the United States are just the regular times. In the United States, they have their own time scale. And just proving that new race venues are going to have fast sleds, it's that simple. I just think it's the wear and tear of the sleds is what it's going to have to be. Like, when we're going to see Dubai be fast, we're going to see the next Australian race be fast. And we'll see if Poland gets new sleds or what they do there. But all these new races are going to be fast. That cracks the code. Yeah. And Hyrox will not address it, and that will just be the game that we're going to play for the rest of our lives.
So will we see the European times slow down this year?
Potentially. Yeah.
Hopefully not till October.
Not the Spanish times. Those will be good.
Yeah.
But like, we saw some of the German sleds last year just kind of slow down.
Regression.
And maybe they have multiple, like, trucks, I guess, for lack of better terms, that will travel to different venues, because it seemed a little inconsistent in Germany. Like, sometimes it was super fast, sometimes it was pretty slow. There was some inconsistencies there, so I don't know if the equipment just changes based off of the logistics of things. But yes, I would say, and like English, like UK sleds are pretty beat up and pretty slow. So I would think, yes, eventually everything should come down.
Yeah, I think that if you're just looking at times, sleds not included, I think men have the most time to gain in the last half of the race. Like wall balls, Ricky going unbroken on 100 wall balls, that just doesn't happen. In the men's field, it's only happened a handful of times. It's regular in the women's field. And I just think that regardless of the sleds, we know that they're inconsistent, but I still think the men's times, the field as a whole, have a lot of ground to make up in the second half of the race.
Y'all want to talk about grit games?
Grit games.
Can I do my brain
teaser
first?
Race brain teaser in the middle. Let's do it. Yeah. Last it was.
Well, it's related to CrossFit and hybrid racing and stuff. So that's what it's about.
Do it. Race brain teaser. Jack Bauer.
All right. It's a simple one. Name the Tough Mudder X podiums during both years.
Men's and women's?
Yeah. Let's start with 2018.
Okay. On the men's, or I can do the winners. BK, you got anything on this? You gonna be able to help here?
I should be able to.
Let's see. It was Hunter and Corinna,
First place.
and then I believe it was Cassidy and Isaiah.
Wait, you're going between
I'm going back
genders.
and forth,
Are you
yeah.
sticking with one
So-
or?
Hunter won men's. Isaiah got second in men's. Or no, Ryan Atkins got second their first year. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're doing the first year. Okay. Yep.
We're doing 17.
Sure. That's
That's
what
what I'm
naming.
naming.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Third place.
And who got third?
It's not a name. It's somebody that this was like the one time.
It is a name.
It is a person's name, but it's not a name that anyone's going to
Yeah.
remember. BK, do you remember the dude's name?
I thought it was Isaiah.
No, he was
No.
failing on he failed something over and over. It was
Seventh place Isaiah got that year. He lost to Benny.
it was a guy who came out and did well in TMX from across the background, got hurt right after he hurt his Achilles or something. Like I know who he is.
Yep. He tore
But
it.
I don't
Kevin Riggy.
Kevin
Yeah, that
Riggy.
guy. That wasn't happening for me.
We had a bunch
Yep.
of Achilles get tore.
Michael Mark and Kevin Riggy during warm-ups. That's why you got to warm up for your warm-up. But it was nasty though. That was not a good thing to jump into a vertical wall
Slanted.
without a warm-up. So, barely.
And then
But-
it was Corinna.
Okay. So yeah, you guys got 2 out of 3 there. Let's go with the women from 2013
13.
20.
or 2017. Sorry.
It was Corinna and Cassidy. BK, you got me on the third one here.
I thought it was a power athlete, but I cannot remember.
I don't have it. I don't think.
Bracken, you're close. Jen Dance was
Oh
That's
wow,
what it was.
nice. Good for her.
yeah,
Okay.
so Sam
Yeah.
Dance's
Okay.
wife.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so 2 for 3 again. Now let's go 2018, the second and final year.
Okay. It was Hunter again, and this time I think it was Isaiah, and then I think it was Dakota Rager.
Wasn't Vellner?
No, I don't think so. Jack.
All right, I'm going with you. Go Dakota.
Oh, you got first and third correct, but it was Jacob Hepner. Remember he showed
Hepner
up
got
to all the
That's right.
Hepner. He's getting second place. Patrick Vellner ended up finishing in 4th place, so just missed making the podium. So close. And then yeah, you also had like Isaiah finished 7th both years. Bobby Noyce,
Nice.
Street Horner, Jordan Troy, and they're all Crossfitters. They were in that as well. And then from the OCR side, you had Matt Kempson finishing in 8th and Dylan Moralia finishing in 10th. So for the women, who were the top 3?
Cassidy win that year?
Mm-mm.
No? Man, this is not my event then. I'm sorry. It's all you, Rich.
I think it was Corinna was.
Remember you guys were saying how good you are at trivia after last
Dude, we
week? I'm
we
stumping
smoked
you.
that. Hey,
we were in
we're getting
Cancun
more-
this week.
Yeah.
We
We're
weren't
getting
doing
more-
any prep.
We're getting more correct than incorrect here.
I
What's
mean-
our percentage? The winner was a CrossFitter. I believe she's Australian. I just can't remember her name. She did like the Spartan Games as
Emma Chapman. She's New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Very
Kiwi.
close.
She would be upset. So that counts. That's a win. That's a win. And then I believe it was Corinna was second. BK, you just want to toss one out for third? I don't
Was
got
it not Cassidy? Did she not make the podium this year?
We'll go with Cassidy.
It was Cassidy, but it wasn't the one you're thinking of.
Okay.
It's Cassidy Lance.
Cassidy
Not
Lance
Watton.
McWhorter.
That's what I was saying.
That's right. Dude, we got that full
Oh, yeah,
podium
yeah,
on the women's side.
Cassidy Watton finished in 5th. And in between them, in her OCR/hybrid debut, was Lauren Weeks finishing 4th.
Nice.
Weeks. I would not have remembered that.
She finished like 20th. She was the last qualifier, 19th or 20th, to make round 2, and then she ends up 4th in the finals.
Dog.
Funny story on that. Yeah, funny. We actually roomed together with Yancey before that race. Funny story there. Yancey, she trained at Camp Rhino, and he knew someone there, and he's like, "There's this girl who, like, she's a freak. I guarantee you, if she gets into this race, she'll do well." And literally the night before, Yancey bought an overnight flight for her to go from Las Vegas to travel for TMX, and I picked her from the airport. She took a red eye, and then basically we did the course walkthrough and stuff. And on like no sleep, she ended up getting 4th the next day. So
Yancey's just that dude,
Mhm.
making the sport happen.
Yep.
You always hear those stories. Everyone's got that local monster who, like, everyone in their gym, like, this is the one. If this person just gets their break. And most of the time, it's just the pond that they're in. But from time to time, the hype was real. And you just see someone and you realize this person is the truth.
Yeah.
That was Jared Newby talking about Meg. He's like, I think she could be really good. I was like, we'll see. And then it's like, oh.
You know who around here? It was anyway, Becca Clifford. I don't know if you remember that name. She
trains with Nicole still.
Yeah, but when she was prior to all of this, there was a workout down at the lakefront, and she just took it to everyone. It was a free Spartan workout, and she dusted all the guys. And then I saw her at a workout. I'm like, she's the truth. And I told Robert Coble, and she came out and like podiumed her first big thing, and then right into stress fractures. But she's one of the great what ifs of the sport. She had no background in this kind of thing, no real running background. It was just a monster, and just had like the Kirk DeWitt thing happen with like stress fracture. And we haven't seen the other side of it yet. But she was that local legend where people were talking about this girl who beat all the guys in this endurance workout.
The great what ifs. Jack, write it down. Episode when we got some dead week.
What if?
You got some great what ifs?
I got nothing. You're
like
Brack and I could talk.
You're like me with TMX.
Sure, I'll rank them. Yeah, that was
useless.
That was not your best showing. You did.
The only one I got wrong was on accident. Nah. I mean, the one I got right was on accident.
Rich getting Dakota Rager. I was impressed
with
that one.
Kevin Riggy. That's a bummer.
And you're like, oh, there's some. Australian girl.
I knew who Kevin Riggy was too. I forgot about him.
Yeah. I give you credit. I'll give you like a 9.5 out of 12 right there. Like I can't give you full credit, but
I remember that race. This was one of my big break moments, BK, where I was like, I'm gonna fucking win this shit. In 2017, like people are gonna know my name.
And Kirk?
I saw Sam. I saw Sam Dancer out there. I was like, I'm about to beat Sam Dancer's ass in this thing, and I didn't.
Matt Fraser's gonna know my name after this.
My name. I was doing Funky Monkey and just splashed and just was swimming around in that water. I was in the heat with all the freaking Globetrotters.
I got 21st in the opening round of that one. I missed it by I think 6 or 7 seconds, making round 2. My hands
in 18
so much on that medal.
Yeah,
2018. Yeah. And that's
perfect
a good transition
to
what we're going to talk about next.
Jack, you are just killing it. Hold on.
Give us something.
Oh, we got to turn this flip.
Yeah, there we go. Some of that clapping right there.
Jack, you're freaking crushing today. Okay, so moving into grit games. Grit games, let's go through the results real quick. We'll just do the podiums. On the men's side, Austin Azar. Jared Newby finishing second. VJ Jones finishing third. Our guy Ryan Kemp was fourth. On the women's side, Chris Rogloski. Domination. Absolute crushing of the competition. Carly Wopat in second, and Calypso Callie Sheridan was in third. So, did you guys dial in? I mean, I was on there. I was on that mic. You guys see? I got this new mic.
Oh, we were chiming in.
Oh, he's got the Shure.
I got that new mic. How'd that sound?
It's a Shure thing.
Sure thing. So,
yeah,
you guys were dialed in. You guys were chiming in, talking shit.
Yeah, we were trash talking in the comments.
Nice.
You didn't see any of that?
They don't kick it up to. Do they normally kick that up?
Oh.
I think that they keep it pretty positive.
It's the only reason I was doing it.
Bracken was chiming in like least valuable race brain member. I was like, fantastic commentary, Rich. We can almost hear you. Like we were just bashing.
If it was Matt doing the controls, he would have sent up that trash talk. But they keep it pretty PG over there.
No.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get the boot from the live chat, but didn't happen.
Great. Yeah. You can block this guy. That'd be great for my morale.
Yeah. How was your commentary debut, Rich? I know you've done it on Race Brain, but like first time you've ever not been busy when they reached out to you.
I don't think I swore. I don't know. It was good. It was fun. It is. It was like they had a decent setup. The event that I was on was the Burpee 400, which is just like you don't know what's going on. Like you can't really tell who's winning. It was our best bet. It was clear that Kent and Chris were crushing, But other than that, it's like
Kent lied about his strategy.
it just seemed like that was just made sense. He's like, I'm just gonna bang these out. They didn't make you do burpees all the way to the ground, which I think was very nice for the athletes in an event which doesn't lean toward cutting the athletes a break at all. But they did kind of cut him a break in that burpee situation, and probably just for the judging, the standards, trying to make.
Do you know that was the form, even less than that, at the first Spartan World Championship I attended?
No, the hump
In
in the ground?
2011, all you had to do was drop down to a push-up position.
That's cool.
You didn't even need like midsection contact or chest
No,
contact.
there's some
called something
video out
different?
there of Hobie and Josiah doing synchronous burpee
I've seen
offs
that
after
one.
the spear in Texas 2011, and they're just drop down, pop up, drop down. It was the fastest 30 burpees you'll ever see.
They didn't even stick their hands over their head. It was just literally get down and do a
pop up.
push-up position,
Seals.
crunch back real quick.
I like it.
Yeah.
You didn't have to get your hips down just to a push up. Not even. I love it.
No. So I
feel
have
like
a suggestion
That's a
for
different move.
this.
Let's call something different.
Anytime anyone wants to do an event like this in the future, I think it's mandatory that the judge has a whiteboard and they write your reps at the end of each round. So as the camera can show who's actually leading, because otherwise you just thought whoever was running top three was top three. And it looked like Jarrett Newby was maybe even leading it because he kept running up to the front.
That was the last workout
Yeah.
where he was doing that. It was a guy named Jonathan Stern.
Right,
Who
but
was
he was
leading
running
the
from like sixth up
He
to
did
like
well.
third each time. And it was like, he might be the sleeper on this. And it turned out he wasn't getting many reps in compared to these guys, but some sort of rep counter that you just update once per round would be really helpful.
It can be a notebook
Or it
even.
could be a notebook.
Doesn't need to be a
Could be a
whiteboard.
chalkboard.
Just- yeah.
We could get chalk out there.
It could be an Etch-a-Sketch.
It could be that
Yeah, it's tough because
overhead projector.
it's basically an AMRAP workout without funneled lanes.
Yeah.
So
the events, we talked about them last week, and watching them on the broadcast. Did you guys catch all of it?
I didn't
Almost
watch the whole
all of
thing.
it.
No.
Yeah.
I watched
Yeah,
all of Event 2.
The obstacle course was long. That because they had to go in twos, but it
Yeah.
looked
7 minutes.
it looked brutal. Brutal event, brutal time of year, really tough in that area of the country in August. But I think it just lives up to its name, right? And like the thing that most of the athletes came away with were very mangled hands, and a lot of it from the burns that Jack referred to that he got in the second TMX, and also just spending a lot of time on the bar. Like, so there was rips and burns. And it seemed to be mostly the talk of the event. So I want to get your guys' take on that, but also just with the understanding that that's kind of the deal here. You know, this is like they have a very old school OCR mentality where it's like, we're going to put you through something that's very uncomfortable, and not just from a fitness standpoint, from just like an overall capacity piece of just like, how uncomfortable are you willing to be in aspects that you might not expect it to happen. And I think the hands really played into that, and it's kind of part of the event.
Yeah. I think we're used to seeing ripped hands at events like OCR World, but that's always in October, and that's due to not the weather elements, but the elements of gripping stuff. This seemed more of you're touching a hot stove, and that's why your hands were in trouble. I know that they were spraying it with water to try to cool it down and stuff, but that only does so much, and the rules said absolutely no hand wraps, grips, gloves, chalk, anything like that. And that's just what's going to happen when you touch something that's super hot and it's just baking in the sun. Because by the time they did the obstacle course, it was after, the hottest part of the day in Texas, 100 degrees, just nonstop sun on it. That's just what's going to happen. And I think that it definitely affected the end results, and they probably could have adjusted the rules a little bit after seeing the day before. They had bunch of the open heat people trying it, and they messed up their hands as well. So I think they could have maybe made some adjustments or removed one thing, put some extra grips on Twister, for instance. But that's just kind of what happened. It's a shame that that's the talk of the event. But
BK, any thoughts?
Yeah, I have an issue anytime that this becomes the narrative after an event. Like it's like the barbed wire crawl in and Palmerton and the hands ripping here. It overshadows how incredible the whole competition is.
Mhm.
It's one of those things where, like, if the barbed wire, 5 people left with their back tore up because they made a choice to do something, cool, good on you. You swung for it. Or 5 people ripped their hands. But if every single athlete is chewed to pieces,
Mhm.
there wasn't an option, and then it just doesn't, I don't see what we're testing. And if you're going to make them burn their hands and rip them apart and say we're testing grit, then you shouldn't allow shoes either. I don't understand why. Like, I understand the purpose of the whole competition. I get it. I think it's cool. I think it has its place in this industry.
Mhm.
But what they were testing there wasn't a test of anything athletic. It was like, you're just going to lose your skin throughout this. And it's like, it wouldn't have dulled the competition to say, put coverings on your hands, put gloves on if you want. It's not going to make your forearms any stronger. It's not going to improve your technique at all. It's just going to stop your skin from being removed from your hands.
I know.
I don't think it improves the competition to say, I understand that your skin's burning off, but we're testing grit here. Like, well, then run them barefoot. Otherwise, like, it's no different. Gloves are no different than shoes.
That's it.
I just don't see that it enhances it, but it dominated the headlines. And I don't think that's what you want, because they run such a great competition that you don't want them to be talking about the unavoidable injuries that everyone had to you don't have to get hurt to test grit.
The events themselves were very interesting. And if this event was held in January, when you wouldn't have had such scalding hot metal and stuff, and like you mentioned, Bracken, maybe 5 people ripped their hand just because they overdid it, as opposed to the weather elements causing it, then I think that's on them. But if this was held at a different time of year, like doing 400 burp, and then you have to do 3 more events after that when it's 100 something degrees, I think if I was them, I would try to hold this at a different time of year next time that they do it. Because the event's fantastic. I think you had a lot of athletes prove that they want to show up for it. It was their 6th year doing it. But you don't want your event to have that negative connotation due to the hand ripping, because no one's going to want to do it after, if that happens year after year.
Right.
It was an unavoidable.
Or you got to start the obstacle course. If that's part of it, like, hey, the grit that we do want to test how well you do in the heat, right? Because that's definitely part of it. They're showcasing what they do in Texas,
that's
right?
fair.
Like, hey, like, you're in Colorado, it's 70 degrees when you train. Not here. It's not going to happen. Like, it's going to be different. But they got to put the obstacle course like in the morning. Right.
Yeah, 7 a.m. before it gets too hot. You have a little bit of sun at that point.
And allowing athletes to have, like, I guess gloves just take on a connotation of being soft, I suppose, right? Like hand grips, gymnastic grips. I don't necessarily agree.
Crossfitters wear them.
Right. It doesn't, and like
construction workers wear them because you can do more
baseball
work.
Players,
right? You can do more work, and that's what Ryan Kent said. I was talking to him a little bit. He said this is the hardest obstacle course I've ever had to do in anything OCR related. So it's not like the gloves are going to all of a sudden improve your skill ability to get through technical obstacles. You might just not burn your hands.
I think it made the obstacle course worse, because what did we see VJ do?
Yeah, just he bailed out.
We saw him skip something. You're not going to see a world champ do that normally. So like it actually removed the excitement of watching the best people try things on the course. Like maybe you don't want hand coverings, whatever. I think it's a arbitrary thing. Like, where do you stop then? No shoes, no shorts, like no shirt, no hat coverings. We're not letting
no sunscreen.
Right. So like, where does it stop? But
not happening.
I think we want to showcase how good you can do as well. Like grit for sure, but there's a lot of ways to test grit. And avoidable injury seems like something you would avoid.
Yeah, because I think what the point that Jack made earlier is that the marketing of it is now kind of tough. Like, hey, come down. It's going to be hot. We're going to do this obstacle course. Your hands are probably going to get fucked up because everyone's hands did.
Yeah. Like if you coming into this had a competition in two weeks afterwards, like I can squeeze this in and recover, I'll do that. You're not going to do that next year. No one with a competition within maybe 3 weeks or 4 of this where they need their hands will do this. I wouldn't do this before a DECA because I'm going to have to do farmer's carry. So it does change. Again, like we've said it 3 or 4 times, but the whole takeaway, the headlines, the narrative was hands got jacked up.
Which is tough.
The events
Right,
themselves,
events is
like
awesome.
that was a gritty weekend, no doubt. You just have it a little bit differently, allowing hand grips or move it to a cooler time of year. Completely different narrative. I think the athletes competing and stuff, they gave it their all. And if hand gripping wasn't an issue, they would have been, praising the event more than just being like, here are my hands. Here's another picture that looks gross. But
agreed. Yeah. But then the takeaway from the athletes there in that final event, it kind of came down to whoever was going to win between Austin, Jared, VJ, and Kent was going to like win the whole thing outright. The way that the scoring was, and they scored it more like CrossFit. They change it every single year. Then this year they did like a point table where it was on 100,
4 points.
Is it negative 4 points each time? And did it get more as it went down, or was it just 4 every time?
I think it was just 4. Just looking at it.
What do you think, Jack? Is that okay?
I mean, you know what I'm going to say. It's not percent winner. No. I mean, it was reasonable. I did have one. If they're going to use that system, I didn't understand why in event 1, Carly and Chris was closing hard. She did not.
They were not tied.
Get ahead of Carly, though. Yeah. They completed the same amount of things. Chris was clearly second place in that heat, yet they both won 100 points.
And the men's,
I didn't agree with that part. If you're going to use a basic scoring system like that, Chris should have got second in that. Granted, she basically swept the entire thing. Looks like it on paper, but she probably should have won 3 and got second in a 4th.
I usually don't get too into this percentage of winner nonsense, but if the title of your competition is Grit Games, you need a scoring system that rewards grit. As it was, if you weren't going to have a chance to get the next place, you might as well coast, because there's no reward for doing better without catching someone. So I think if you're going to reward toughness, people should be selling out for points, because they know, like, Kent sold out without realizing it, but he should have been rewarded for that because he's going to be trashed into the next thing. Yeah. Whereas second place is like, if I can't catch Kent, whether I do 1 less burpee or 25 less burpees, it's the same points. I should do 25 less burpees. So that puts it's at odds with testing overall grit. So this is one of the times I would actually say percent of winner is the only way to do this.
And I think that's why Kenny liked doing that in the past, was I thought they had some sort of system on that, because he wanted every event, every single athlete in every single event to need to press all the way through. And he was able to do that very well with that 400 burp test, because you don't know where you're at. Like, Kent was killing everybody and didn't know, and had to keep his foot down on the gas. And
if Kent had 10% extra burpees and 100's the max, then second place should have been 90, because that's 10% less than 100. Like that's how
I'll take your word on that.
Yeah, right. You're just saying stuff.
Yeah, it means nothing to me.
Okay,
just kicking numbers my way. It's not what I'm here for.
Yeah,
but shouts to Austin. The last event, it was what it was. It was you had to finish an 800 meter in a certain amount of time, and after
4 minutes,
it was 4 minutes until a certain point, maybe about 30 minutes into the event, and then everyone got cut down by 10 seconds. So and then when it got to 3 minutes, I think was the last duration that they would have to cover 800 meters for. And then when you would get back, there was some sort of task. It was 30-second dead hang or 30-second static overhead hold with I think a 30-pound medicine ball, so nothing super heavy. And the last event turned in after that 3-minute run, it just turned into a dead hang off. So whoever got there and hung on the bar the longest, and Austin almost didn't make it, but when I was watching, I was like, dude, if Austin gets back to this, it's a wrap. Didn't he hang for like 7 minutes at the combine or something?
At the combine, yeah, he was like 6.5, 7 minutes, and then they told him and Matt Kempson, all right, time to get off.
Was that with pull-up, with a pull-up in between?
That was with a tap on each shoulder.
Goodness, what a beast.
But two-handed for 10 seconds, and then just tap, reset, keep going.
So it's a good event for Austin. This is like, I mean, the athletes still who we figured, we didn't know Jared was going when we talked last week.
I didn't know he was going.
And Jared thinks he is the best goofball games athlete out there right now.
Where's Cole?
We're talking about the best.
Another guy thinks he's the best, but yeah.
And I don't disagree with him. When Jared shows up at one of these events, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem.
Austin's up there as well, but I agree Jarrett's probably number one because
He has
Austin
done well
got second in the Spartan Combine that year, I believe, behind Matt Kempson.
That's true.
In Laughlin, and he did the one in Pennsylvania back in the day. I think you were there, Bracken, but I don't remember the results off the top of my head.
He might have been third.
Yeah.
Do you know that a Crocker has never lost a combine?
Is that true?
Yeah.
How many have you done?
We've done 2.
And you both took W's?
Yeah.
Nice. Good work.
Which highlights the flaws in the test.
Did you make the test?
I made the test for Laughlin.
And you did not participate?
Correct.
Nice. Okay.
Not solely. Magida, Amelia Boone, and I made that test.
Because that's old school TMX. Hunter basically made the course and then gets to go out and compete for $20,000 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cool.
Guess who has the SoCal results? Got them right here. So let's see. Oh, they don't have the overall result. It's just individual results, but not the total rankings. Never mind. I've got your individual events if you care to. I'll forward it to you later, Bracken. But
you look at it and be like, man, print it out.
40-yard dash, broad
40
jump.
yard dash was on loose gravel.
Oh, that's why you were 5'5". What was it?
Macaulay and I still went 1-2 there.
Yeah,
it was probably like 4.8 or 4.9.
I think you got under.
Try 5.6.
It was hand timed as well.
Oh, okay.
We were in the 4.6, 4.7 when we did laser timed in.
That's really fast.
But that was on a cinder track.
Everyone's a 4.6, 4.7. I don't know if I believe
it was
that.
laser timed on a cinder track.
The 40 yards.
Yeah.
The old
or
CrossFit.
meters, right? Yeah. I'm just messing with you.
Anyway,
it
was not a good test of who's going to be good at Spartan.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Not going to argue with that. On the women's end, it was Chris. Chris had 100 points in every single event. Like we talked about before, Carly was ahead of her in that carry test, but Chris was like kicking to catch up to her. Like was really putting it out there and it made a difference in the total score. I was definitely impressed with Carly. The way that she approached the burpee 400 test, I knew that that's a tough test for her just based off of her size and her running ability. She managed her runs really, really well and just plugged away at the burpees, and it was just really impressive as someone who might not be as dialed in with an endurance event for her to have the restraint to know not to go with it. She was also wearing a heart rate monitor, so she's probably monitoring herself and making sure it's like, I can't go any higher than this no matter what. And her burpees stayed up.
4 events to do.
And she did well on the obstacle course too. I think she was like second or third. So she's just
It seemed like Chris just decimated everybody, though.
I didn't catch the last event for the endurance part. It was long. It was like over an hour for the men. I'm doing stuff. I got paint.
Yeah. Fast forward.
And Calypso Sheridan is also like Carly and Calypso also are just when the goofball games show up, they're going to be there and it's going to be an issue. Nothing you can do about it. So we'll see them both in Battle Bunker. And I don't know where else. Calypso, we should see in DECA. She will definitely qualify for the top 20. And Carly, I don't know when the next event that she will be doing, but she'll definitely be at Battle Bunker when that drops.
I know you laugh and joke about goofball games and everything like that, but some of these events are just for the sake of destroying people. The grit games, I give them credit for testing things.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen some games that have things that you can tell the event organizers were like, how could we destroy them here? And then destroy them again. And then they cross the line and they're on the ground and they're like, success. No matter what it was that got them there. If they can see an athlete destroyed, it was a success. And there's like that masochistic approach to it where Grit Games has purpose to it.
Yes.
The things that they test are relevant other than the decision on the hands. Everything else made sense from if you can do these things, you're going to be successful in this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I wouldn't lump this into The goofball games, though. I mean, like the Go Ruck is just like the pinnacle of that. Like the things that they've tested over the past 2 years.
Cosplay
like,
games.
This just makes no sense. Like you can't prepare for this. This is just like a fun event that you could do, and that's great. But like these are this was like almost standardized. Like you know what these at least 3 of the events are going to be, and then the 4th event changes to like as they tweak it throughout the years. So this is much more of a legit competition than a
Go Ruck games.
This is
sorry, Jack. If you win the Go Ruck games, that you could win it without being good at any other form of hybrid or racing or OCR or running.
Totally, absolutely.
Grit games, you can't win it without being good at other things. Like if you never did anything else and you won grit games, you would go be successful in a hybrid or road running or OCR. Maybe not the best at it, but you'd be instantly good at it. Where like if you finish your competition and the only thing that you're guaranteed to be good at is that competition, I don't know what you're testing.
Right.
For these hybrid games.
And then what does it matter?
Things.
Right. Like what does it matter for the athletes then? What is this?
It's like winning Broken Skull. Like it didn't say what you'd be good at. A monster athlete can win it, but someone could win it who's no good at anything in particular other than winning that. But since that was a TV show, that's acceptable.
And that's why I do like the grit games over some of these other ones that are like, are we just like kind of like testing people who aren't that good at running and aren't that good at CrossFit, and we're just kind of like just throwing
good at holding something
wrenches
over their head
at people and see how they do with it. It's like, sure. Jack, you've been cut off a bunch of times now tonight.
All good. I was just gonna say this event I will factor into the Hybrid Fitness Media top 20 rankings.
Well, I mean,
because it was a standardized competition, not just an event. An event I define as like people get together, you're just doing something, and yes, there might be a competitive aspect to it, but there aren't necessarily like knowns. There are too many unknowns, and it's unpredictable. It doesn't really test what we're looking for in a hybrid athlete. It's transferable, and you had a lot of good names there, so I think head-to-head matters. It does stink that hands played into the equation, but I do think that at the end of the day, like if you're looking at the names in the top 5 or so, that's kind of who we expected. Maybe the order is a little bit different.
Dropping. He's out. But Jack said he's done.
Yeah, he's had a rough year at kind of weird events.
I have a question for the group. Like we were talking about, who do we bring in to try to be Hyrox competitive? If you all had to sponsor an athlete to come in to win the grit games next year who is not there, but they have to go against everyone who currently was there, who are you bringing? One man, one woman. Who are you bringing to take this thing down?
Atkins.
I was going to say Hunter.
Okay. I was going to say Rylan.
And then on the women's side,
Rylan was going to go. Rylan could have done really well.
Give me
that's a good point.
85% healthy Rylan. Atkins would obviously be good.
He would have done well, for sure.
Yeah. I think Chris is the most well-rounded, and that's probably who I would have picked. Tara, she was there. You kind of think of her as, really good at hybrid, but not necessarily OCR, and we kind of saw what happened there. She just didn't perform as well as she probably wanted to, but Chris is probably the heavy favorite. I don't know about Lauren's obstacle game or Meg. Meg's slightly better runner. They just went actually head-to-head in Rally in the Valley. I think that both of those two, very safe choices.
Ida would be really good. Ida would be really good at this. With Ida
and Rylan.
Yeah, Ida's a good call because she's not going to get programmed out because of some heavy lifting situation.
Atkins and Lauren's not a bad choice.
I'll take Meg. Throw Meg in the mix. She's done Hunter. Meg's done her dead hang is close to 3 minutes. She's tested it recently, so I don't know. She probably doesn't have a ton of skill on the obstacles, but she can muscle through it.
It's all right.
She can figure it out.
I don't think Carly necessarily did, but she got second in the obstacle.
Totally. So moving on to another, this was like the inaugural event at Rally in the Valley. This took place somewhere in West Virginia. West Virginia geography, I don't know.
Hurricane.
Is it near Bechtel or whatever? Maybe. Is
Bechtel
it all
Reserve?
Same? Probably. How am I supposed to know? But
I've also got 8 minutes left, so just if you guys want to continue on, I'll probably drop off.
What's this? Shows up late, leaves early.
Last in, first out. He's a smart investor.
That's how he does.
Yeah. Right here, I got 2 missed calls from people in my company in the meantime.
Well, you don't gotta. They
Just tell me you're pooping.
Yeah, Race Brain Inc. is right here.
I'm not racing you right now.
There it is.
Oh,
Got
Rich.
it.
Rich
Nailed
on
it.
That was
fire.
quick.
The one we were waiting for it.
That was good.
A little bit
radio-esque.
delayed. I have to go back and cut that in a little bit just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So Rally in the Valley, first time event happening up there. This was more in line with what I would consider like hybrid fitness racing. Then there was a couple things in there that were wrinkles that were a little strange. But we'll just go through the podium real quick. It was Jack Driscoll on the men's side. My guy Joe Roberto finished second, and Jonathan Napier was third. On the women's end, it was Lauren Weeks, Meg Jacoby, and Jess Petro finished in the third spot there. So this looked really cool. And it was a 2-day event. It was split between kind of like an endurance day, and then the second day was more CrossFit, Metcon-y type stuff. And it was a lot of in trails. They did a paddleboard race, which was something that is a little bit kind of like that unknown, like, what are we doing with this? They did a cognitive memory test. Did you hear about this? Old school,
Downhill
old
section or
school Spartan
something.
stuff. Apparently, Meg was telling me that you have to. There was like a bunch of items on the ground. You had to stop and look at them, and then continue running down. And then when you got to the base, you had to list as many of the items as you possibly could.
It's like
So they
MTV's The Challenge.
A little bit. Well, how did the memory test work with Spartan? I never had to do it.
You had your race number, and it would correlate to a code.
If your bib ended with a 1, you had to remember the code.
Where did
for
you
the
put
1.
it? Did you
They had,
like have to
10
tell somebody?
combinations or something?
Yeah, so then you get to a checkpoint, and there'd be a worker with a clipboard, and you'd say, race number 258. And they'd say, go ahead. And it'd be like, Zulu 0727. Like, all right, you're clear.
Did you have to do burpees if you'd miss it?
30.
Yeah.
That's a little silly. I think that's a little silly.
I had a
No
situation in Illinois. I was racing Ryan Woods. And this is the first time I was like free and clear ahead of Woods. And I got to a memory test at mile 4. And this was a 7-mile race. And I stop and I look at it and I'm just over and over and over. And I take off. And like a mile later, I realize I don't know it. So I'm.
Oh, it would be a mile later when they test you?
Sometimes
Not
it'd be
right
3
away.
miles later. They didn't tell you when it was going to be. In Killington one year, it was like 6 miles later.
That's crazy.
I was just chanting going up the hill. Anyway, I just kept waiting, knowing I need to build up a 30 burpee lead, and just thrashed myself. Thought about going back and didn't. And finally, I got to the Z wall, and all was left was the fire pit. It was Z wall and then like an 8-foot wall. I'm like, they're going to be standing at the finish line for this thing. I'm going to have to, and I got over, and they're like, oh no, we just decided not to do that. I just ran like 3.5, 4 miles, terrified for my life. And they just decided not to test it.
Lucky for you. Better off for that. Yeah.
They got rid of it when people started bringing Sharpies and writing the code down on their arm.
That's probably what I would have done. That seems crazy. So the programming, I really like the way that's looked over here at the Rally at the Valley. I thought it was a good representation of like hybrid fitness racing. It wasn't all CrossFit light like how we saw at Battle Bunker. It's like no skill CrossFit. Like, okay, it had a lot more endurance-y running pieces and a lot of single modality. What do we call what are the CrossFitters call it?
Monostructural.
A lot of monostructural events where there was just like a 5K, a ruck run up, a descent down, and then the paddleboard situation. And then they had a kind of, what do you guys think about this for finishing these events? Where they take the top X amount of athletes, it seems to typically be like 8 is what we've seen on Go Ruck and then again in Rally in the Valley, and then having it be elimination style.
I don't like it.
I like it if you go from least to
dumb.
most specific.
In terms of what?
Like skill required for the task. I like it, but you can't have an oddball or specialty event early.
That's what Go Ruck has done. They made the elimination an overhead hold and famously wrestling. It's like, let's just start with the wrestling. Let's just get it out of the way. If you can't win the wrestling, don't do the hold. But this was kind of more like that. Jack, what are your thoughts? You don't like?
I'm not a fan. No, because some people's strength, it would be like the make your perfect Hyrox thing where Bracken's like, oh, we're gonna do devil takes the hindmost and eliminate the person who's last after the skier. It's like, what if your best event is later on and you don't get a chance to do it? Like you were a monster at the other 7, but you're just not good at, ski erg, or in Deca, if you're just slow on the lunges, it's like, sorry, you don't get a chance to make up ground.
You're too strict on the lunges. You're counting, and you're waiting for the judge to tell you to go, and it doesn't happen.
I know.
Here's my rationale. I've been a part of probably 3 or 4 of these games style things. And whether you're doing a hybrid games or a CrossFit games or like the Golden Trail World Championship where they did 3 days of racing, what ends up happening is some people just got it. They get into their groove, and some people just get worse and worse and worse. You rarely see people make big shifts in the field. In these game type situations, it starts separating early and people come from like 4th to 1st. But you don't see someone start out at the bottom and win very often. And maybe, Jack, with your recollection, you can come up with something, but there's a palpable like separating energy feeling to this where the people who are doing well are going to keep doing well until they crack. But the people who are bad early, they don't get on track.
So you think it's okay?
Patrick Vellner almost always is like 25th to 40th after the first event or two. He's always is notorious for having a bad start to the game.
But he's not the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but like say that you did head to head and in theory you're going to eliminate 50% of the field.
I don't think we would
if
ever
you're
do
in
that.
25th.
I think we're talking about cutting down.
To the very end as well, Jack. So usually he can make his way back to it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'm not a fan of even at the CrossFit Games when they do top 20 after day 3.
I don't like the cuts either.
Then
I don't like the cuts either.
Down.
But yeah, I guess I'm kind of. I think it's enjoyable, but I don't know. Like, what do the other events mean then? Like if you win every single event, and then it comes down and like you're eliminated because of something that maybe or if you are winning after all the events and you finish 2nd to 5th in all of them, you're the most consistent throughout the entire weekend. And then you get something where, you happen to finish an event that is less in your wheelhouse and you get 5th on one of those and you're eliminated after being the most consistent best athlete the entire time.
Or
you can't do both systems is the point. You can't have a point system and a knockout. Because then it doesn't matter. Like you're right. There's no point building a lead if you're going to have to wrestle and not make it to the final.
Right.
Like if you're tied, I could see having a wrestle off. But,
do you think there's a way they can do one of these games where it is like back in Little League we used to play tournaments and it'd be double elimination tournaments. So you get eliminated, you drop into the losers bracket, and then you can work your way back into actually
wrestle back.
Yeah.
That works in team sports, but it doesn't seem to
wrestle
work.
Back. Wrestling does it.
We'll just wrestle it. That's wrestling what it is. Well, you get hybrid fitness events in the winners bracket, but when you lose, it's a wrestling bracket. And you actually have to wrestle your way to get back into the final.
But if you can win the losers bracket, then you get to go to the final against.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. So maybe we do that for an event. We just set it up. 64 athletes, double elimination style. Just do random ass events.
How's that gonna work?
No, like we won't really
actually wrestling.
But we'll just make it as silly as we can. Oh. Sometimes it'll be a 5K run. Okay. Sometimes it'll be 1 rep max deadlift. You'll have no chance in some of the events, but that's just how we're gonna do it.
I was gonna say Hawk Call versus Zach Vogel might not be a good match to watch.
I would do cut down 200s. Start at
the last start at nasty crosses
40. No, for the final 2.
Make it time based, like okay.
Start at 40, and there's a 30-second rest each time to just walk across the field to start the next 200. Start at 40 and just cut down. Next one's got to be done in 39, and then 38, and you go until one person can't make the cut down. That would be my Carnival Games eliminator.
That punishes you for not getting clear on your own anyway.
That's all you. That's the BK event.
Yeah. What this made me look at, I thought it was a cool event. There was a little bit of goofiness in it. Like, again, the paddleboard. If you announced that in advance, I'm cool with that.
And they did. And that was like the one thing that I saw with this event. I was like, paddleboard, interesting.
So I wasn't totally against it. If you surprise someone with a paddleboard, that's strange. But what it made me pine for was when I believe it was going to be at Shale Hill. They were going to do that long distance hybrid OCR competition where there were going to be like 200 skills tested over the course of 15 miles. Like every skill. And it made me want to do that as our carnival, our goofy games, the Race Brain goofy games would be like a 30K or a 50K with every single skill tested from all the existing hybrid / OCR formats.
All the stuff we've ever seen.
Everything we've ever seen. So you're going to hit a rig, you're going to hit a swim, you're going to hit a rower, a skier, an assault bike, you're going to have to hit there's going to be a shooting station, like balance, just everything.
I like it.
Over the course of a long trail run.
Race Brain Goofy
I asked Jared if he's going to have goofy games up at Noob Sanity, like a
That's
Goofy
where you
Games
could do
World
it.
Championship. We could do this.
You could do it.
And so you take a 2-day or a 1-day competition and you just take out all the rest. So it's the ultra goofy games. That's what it made me want. And there was going to be big money and people started to train for it. And then it just went away.
Chris is the heavy favorite.
That's in like New England, right?
Yeah. Vermont,
Yeah.
I believe.
Vermont, dude.
Anyway, I want an ultra goofy games. I want no rest between. I want it to be a trail run like they did there. They had a lot of trail running. I thought it was cool. And you just I picture like going through a state park, and every time you come to a picnic area or a gazebo, there's just a station set up under the pavilion. And now you do this thing, or maybe multiple, like you're hitting ram burpees, step backs, and ski erg. And now you're back on the trail and you just keep hitting waypoints, the ultra goofy games.
This could take place of what we were trying to do with the ultra.
No, don't even say things like that.
Okay, we'll keep that in. Hey, we're just building an empire.
24 hours in the dome of Hyrox.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Jack,
I gotta
just
sign off.
don't leave. Just mute your mic and your
Camera.
It might need to upload, but you can get the hell out of here. I don't care about that. I'm not begging you to stay.
I am.
Bye.
See you guys.
I don't know how much more we really have to talk about BK, but
Not much.
not a ton here to talk about. But I like that. I like this, like what they did at Rally Valley. I think it was probably the most, for me personally, and it was just like my own flavor. I would have enjoyed this event more than any other like pop-up games that I've seen so far.
Yep, I agree. I think it was very well rounded. I think the setting is a bonus, and I think if you get 100 athletes there, and 50 of them are real high level, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. There was no money at this time at this event this year, which is crazy how they got these athletes out here. Lauren, Meg, like Jess Petra is very good, and we're gonna see a lot of her coming up. And Corinna was there, Katie Knight was there, Lauren Matala was there. They had really high level female athletes, at least. The men's athletes, these are athletes that we've seen more at like the things like Battle Bunker. Like Joe was at
Regional
Battle Bunker.
athletes.
Yeah. Jack was at Battle Bunker. He made the final, and he's impressive. He's really strong and pretty fast for how strong he is as well. So we'll see if this thing grows. They get a little backing behind it. West Virginia, again, it's just tough. It's just tough to. How do you get there? Can you even get there? I feel like when they had it was like a 13-hour drive, no matter where you were coming from.
Both years, I just flew into Charlotte and road tripped up with Brian Gowiski because it was like 6 or 7. It was like a 6-hour drive.
Exactly.
Or Raleigh
Right.
or whatever it was. Charlotte, I think Charlotte.
There is an airport in Charleston, but who knows how close that is to this place? Hurricane? Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a question for you.
Okay, great.
And it's going to be a shoe question.
Nice. Let's do it.
Jack and I are talking about doing doubles at Hyrox Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a two-part shoe question. Last year at one point you messaged me and you said, I think the Endorphin Pro 3 is just the option this year. We've seen new shoes come out. There's a whole host of older shoes that it seems like no one has tested yet because there's the assumption it won't work well. Do you have a better option for 2023, 2024 than the Endorphin Pro 3 for people who want a super shoe for Hyrox?
I think the Rocket X can work. Like from what I've tested and how I've used it, I think that one can definitely work. It has a better underfoot feel for me. I think it's a little bit of a higher performing super shoe. The upper is just a little bit flimsy. Like the heel counters, I don't trust it a ton.
Yeah.
So right now I do, but then like I mean, I guess it matters how much you want to look at those 5K, 10K shoes that are coming out, right? Like that, like what's the Saucony did the endorphin? What was that one called?
They just had the Sinister.
The Sinister, yes. I was thinking that category that's kind of like the Kinvara, right? Like,
the Kinvara Pro.
Yeah, like it's kind of like a lightweight.
That's like a train. Yeah,
it's like more of like a lightweight trainer,
like a tempo shoe.
Like a tempo shoe. What was in their endorphin line? I thought they came out with one that was like in that middle weird ground that didn't have.
I don't think they did yet.
What were the shoes that there's a Speed? It was a Speed, right? Isn't that like a more?
Well, the Speed is it's the Pro with a nylon plate.
Okay, and what was it? Was there 3? I thought there was 3.
Shift is the like maximal cushioning one.
Okay,
totally different shoe.
Yeah, and Hoka just came out with that other one.
Road Chelly or whatever. Cielo.
Oh yeah, the Cielo, Cello, and also the Mach X.
Mach X.
So we're seeing a lot more of everyday running shoes kind of having some super foam in there. What are you thinking?
I don't know. The new On Cloud Boom 3 or whatever looks like it has some decent grip. I still think the Mizuno Rebellion Pro needs a test.
Yeah. You don't have a pair yet?
No, because they're just so funky. And they're not on sale yet. Although Runner In has them for like $180 or something like that.
Oh,
I almost. But
have you seen those? Have people been performing with those on the road? Are we seeing people run fast, like high level athletes?
No, because the highest level have a deal, or they're just sticking with Vapor or Alpha. Vapor mostly.
Mm-hmm.
The new 3 seems to not be as aggressive, which might be good, and the tread is improved.
Definitely.
I'm wondering why no one's tried the Alpha 2 yet.
Alpha in general is just kind of...
The second Alpha is so much more stable, and the tread's different.
Yeah. I would be interested in that. I pushed a sled with the Alpha 1s before, and it moves.
You can push it. Can you pull it stable is the question.
I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable pulling it.
The downside with the big stack is that the forefoot's big. So like in the Alpha, walking lunges would be deficit lunges.
And like they hardly fit in the rower straps. Like it's weird how it fits.
I wonder about the Adios Pro 3. But
they just have not been like the rubber that they've been using in that whole line is just.
I like the rubber in the line, just not for indoor dusty concrete.
No, agreed.
So I don't know. And then for Jack, because Jack's a minimal drop,
Topos.
He does the 0 barefoot. Outside of the Ultra Vanish Carbon, which is not a great shoe. It's not complete yet. The lockdown's not very good. What's the option for a low drop super shoe?
What about that Sinister?
That's still like an 8 or 10 mil drop. It's just minimal. Much? It's so narrow. It's like a track spike fit.
These Cielos, these Cellos are low. I'm pretty sure. I think those are 4.
I'm talking more like low drop rather than low stack.
Yeah.
Like 0 to 3 mil drop with... Is there anything in the Hyrox world that you'd want?
The Cielos are 3.
Are they?
Yeah.
Do you like them?
I'm not sure. They really ripped up my feet the first time I used them. Like I was bleeding from my heel and from my pinky toe on my right side. I did a track workout in them, but like usually it should be fine. I wore them for a Hyrox workout or for DECA workout yesterday, and they work fine. They're good. I think I'm gonna wear them for DECA in PA.
Okay.
I want to bring them and see what they got. But if you want something a little bit lower, I think that's the move.
Yeah, I wonder about that Puma Deviate Nitro 2.
What's the drop on that?
They raised the stack. No, not for these, not for Jack, but in general, they raised the stack height on the Nitro 2, and I think they made it a little more stable. So that could be an option for just you and I.
I mean, the way the Fast R's feel, I'm interested. I've talked to some people who really like the Puma line just in general.
I didn't like the Deviate Nitro Elite or the Deviate Elite 1.
Why not?
It's it's stiff flat. It didn't feel any plate to it in terms of propulsion, but it really makes you want to supinate. So I just didn't feel anything good out of it, and I had to work to hold my stride well in it. But the two, they added stack height to it, which usually accentuates. You can put more of a curve to the plate.
And you get a little bit if the foam.
I have good foam.
Yeah, like even with the fast R's, like I'm not blown away by the underfoot. It's just
I
like
the foam better in the Deviate than the fast R's.
Okay, yeah, because I would like to see how that does work. I haven't had anything other than that, but I'm interested.
I told you I did 4x8 minutes yesterday, and I did Endorphin Pro round 1, Fast R round 2, Metaspeed Sky round 3, and then Alpha round 4. And the Metaspeed Sky are closer to the Alpha than to the other two. It just reminded me how much I really love the Metaspeed Sky.
I think you like these Rocket X. You hate Hoka. You hate Brooks.
I love Hoka.
Try them. The Rocket X, I think that you would really like. That's the closest one that. Rocket X. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The actual super shoe.
The new one that they came out. Yeah, it was Rocket X too.
So I think you would like the Metaspeed Sky, and then I will try the Rocket X.
Because that was the closest thing that I've had that feels like an Alpha. I've never really run in a Vapor, but the closest thing that I've felt for an Alpha has been Rocket X. So
both
far.
The Adios Pro and the Sky, the Metaspeed Sky, to me feel like tame Alphas. Differently, the Adios Pro is very stiff, but there's a bounce to it. But the Sky is in between the two. It's not as stiff as the Pro, but not as mushy as the Alpha, and it has both of them are like land and bounce rather than like rock me through.
I had those Prime X stacked 50. Those were bouncy balls. I still have them. I just haven't worn them in a while. But they're not doing any. I don't think I've brought them to the track. You can't turn at all. No turns whatsoever.
Straight line, like slightly downhill marathon. That's your shoe.
Yeah, like the Colorado Marathon, or what's the Mount Charleston one or whatever.
Charleston.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Have you lost in a doubles?
Have I lost in a doubles? No.
You finished any place other than first?
No.
Okay. Jack better bring it.
It's called picking good partners.
Hey, you're a glue guy.
I'm a glue guy. I'm a relay guy. That's what you want. You put together a relay.
Yeah, true. Every championship needs that. Every championship needs that. What we got in the running public this week?
We did training Tuesday yesterday. Comes out today on the 5 workouts that Kirk and I have prescribed the most this year. Pure running workouts, yeah.
Okay, nice. It's not just
we talked in the past about our favorite ones, but looking through what have we actually prescribed quality day the most to all of our athletes in total.
Mine would definitely just be like 8 by 3 minutes at threshold with like 40 seconds rest.
Yeah, one of mine was a 3 minute, 5 minute, 7 minute progression.
It's just a progression off of that. That's absolutely what it would be.
Yeah, that was my first one. That was my most prescribed, but then like long cut down type stuff, and I'm not going to give it all away, but breaking down why we like it and why it works for so many people.
Listen to the run. Did you have an interview?
We have an interview. I don't know if it's fully lined up, and it seems like any time I say what it's going to be, the interview falls through.
What about the one that's out now? Do you have one?
From last week, that was coming off of Kirk's wedding, so we just did one episode, just basically a long training Tuesday we did.
Did you give him
in-depth talking on maximizing running volume? Like if you can't run anymore, how do you make your miles matter more?
Did you give him your wedding gift? Just... Are you going to do it?
I'm still wait, what did you think my wedding gift was going to be?
Advice.
Oh, advice. So I'm going along those lines, and I'm putting together a gift for him, like my marriage starter pack.
What's going to be
everything that's been beneficial to our marriage.
I like it. You're going to send him like books? What do you mean? Like
a whole box full of everything. It's going to be like a hodgepodge, random assortment of everything that's made our marriage better. That can be like $100 or less.
I love it. I mean, you have value there. You've been married some time.
Dozen? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you have experience on that. I would just
married in 2011.
Wow. Yeah. That's actually a valuable gift. If it was coming from me, it'd be just like trash. Nothing.
Trash is what keeps you guys together.
Take out the trash and you're good to go. On reinforced running, we had someone on when I talk with Kent, we talk a lot because I've been doing that 9-day schedule that you actually brought to my attention because you did that whole series on that. So someone asked to dive into that a little bit deeper. So I did that on the 9 or 10-day schedule. I made sure to mention, I was like,
someone told me.
I was like, my dudes over there, they've been chewing up time. They've got like 10 episodes on. They did like a 7-day, an 8-day, 9-day, all the way to 20 days. That's what they did.
365-day schedule.
We call it like the Dylan Scott, probably just something random every day.
Right.
So I did one of those. I did something like that. That's out now. And then I just talked to Meg yesterday. We did a big deep dive on Rally in the Valley.
You know what's funny? We did our 7, 9, and then 14-day schedules or whatever. And we had a bunch of our athletes reach out and be like, hey, I think I'm ready to try it. And then you put it out, and I had 2 more athletes to contact me. Like, hey, I was just listening to Rich's episode. I'm like, what? He did like, no. He told, the first thing he did was say, so your episode convinced 2 of my athletes to shift to it after my episode did not.
You just planted the seeds. I just brought it into
you're
selling.
You're putting me under.
It's tricky though. It's not like I've programmed it maybe a couple of times, but like it's just like the 7 days just nice in terms of what it can do for a schedule.
But I think for hybrid 9 is really nice.
It's nice.
How are you doing it? Do I need to listen to your episode?
No. I would never send you a link to the episode. Are you kidding me?
I'm saying, would I find it interesting?
I don't know if it's necessarily going to tell you. I didn't listen to your episodes, so I don't know exactly how you guys covered it. But a lot, like the gist is basically like, if you're going to do this, don't just do it for the sake of recovery and not for necessarily adding more quality. I've been doing still double quality works 2 days a week. And then I'm doing like my X Factor day. Cause we talked about that, like an X Factor day for double threshold. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I've added in. And that's going to be more like what I'm considering power endurance, more like accessing strength under fatigue, as opposed to just compromised running, compromised station work. This is like compromised power work is kind of what I'm putting in there. You
liking it so far?
Yeah, I do. Again, it's even been a little tricky, just like trying to navigate like how it's going to work. Mm-hmm. But I sat down and scheduled out several weeks, and just to kind of so I don't have to think about it anymore.
I like that.
But yeah, it's been good. Have you been in now? Or are you sticking 7?
I'm on 9 right now.
Yeah.
I had switched to 7 for Palmerton. I think it's easier to check the boxes on 7. 9 requires stay power mentally. You're not getting the gratification as much, but when you get in a roll on 9, you start getting a lot of work done.
And that's what a point that I did make as well is just like it can extend progressions. So like you might not get as fit as fast, but you can push things out further. And like where I'm at right now is that like I have several weeks until big races. So like having a longer, I
think it's great pre-competition.
Yeah. I don't know.
Off season, early season.
I don't know if I'll switch it as it gets into it, just because I am enjoying it. But I guess I'll see what I'll need once I start racing.
And I found it really enhances your ability to get all your lifting in.
Yeah, it does. I have 3 strength sessions and I have like 4 recovery days. My strength sessions are more recovery days these days anyway. I'm not going too hard that way. But
for
now,
GVT, 9 days is nice.
Oh yeah, because you can build in some recovery. Yeah. And when you take the recovery, it feels productive. Where sometimes in 7, for me, I was like, oh my God, I need to get in more machine work. And it's like taking away from my recovery. And now it's like, I'm just going to go chill on the trails, going to go chill on the road, do some easy like movement later in the day, call it recovery.
I find on 7, it sneaks up on you when you've done a little too much. And on 9, it sneaks up on you and then you realize, I think I'm ready for more. Which is, from a sustainability standpoint, really nice. Like sometimes after a while at 7, I'm trying to fit that. I need that one more thing. I need that. You're like, I need to take some down weeks. I'm kind of burnt. Feels but on like 9, it's like eventually, all right, I think I need some more work. Which is a great place to be at when you're already training well.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and it's felt great from that perspective because I am not feeling overly burnt, and I'm still doing like 13, 14 hours a week, and it feels
That's a lot of
good.
work.
Doing work out here. Got Deca PA, 2 weeks. Going down.
Stop. Hometown.
That's it.
Go in.
Doing
Tap the trophy case.
That's it. I gotta go. Maybe I should go see my pictures up in the gymnasium back home.
Yeah.
Better be.
Bring them a few options. Frame some things up. Bring them in for them.
It's already done. It's already going up.
All right. I like it.
Really taken. All right, dude.
See you soon.
Chad. Later.